thought it was tennis.
Yeah, we've got golf and baseball.
Are they yours?
No,
Good.
they are my husband's and my kids. Yeah. So no, not mine. Lots of football.
There we go. I think we're getting started. Maybe.
Okay, we'll see if you got that, Brandon. So it's what it is. They put my head on a Johnny Cash. They wrote it to a Johnny Cash song.
Okay.
Because I kind of got the title the Johnny Cash of retirement. So hence the redneck and the hippie.
Hi, this is Tony Davis, and it's my pleasure and Lucas's pleasure to introduce Jerry Bramlett. Lucas, do you have anything to add? Nope. That's it, folks.
Hey, Brandon's on his game. Brandon's on his game this week, bringing some new action after last week's little acid trip we all went through. That's a sick little video. Thanks, BC. Let me ask you all, what do these 5 things have in common? Maui, Chihuahuas, 401k plans, the Netflix show Peaky Blinders, and you, the audience that tuned in today. Justin, any idea what those 5 things have in common?
No clue. No.
Chad?
It's JD Carlson doing an event in Hawaii with his Chihuahuas, watching Peaky Blinders on the bed of his hotel room.
Ooh, I like that. I was going to say, those are all things that I love from the bottom of my heart. Every fiber in my body loves those things. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. My name is JD Carlson. You can call me Jay Dizzle. I'm here with Chad Johansson, Justin McNeil, and no, Rope Guy's not here. I fired his ass. He's gone. We're done with him. No, Mark Palmini has got a little family thing. We gave him the day off, and Ascensus is kind of a TPA, subject today a little bit. Shannon S-Words decided to join us, and she will be playing in Mark's role. She's from TriStar Pension Consulting. Shannon, remember, you're not a guest. Take it easy. You're just playing the host role, filling in Mark's spot. And so everyone else out there knows, Shannon had carpal tunnel surgery on her wrist today, banging out too many ADP tests on that keyboard. And so she's been drugged up a little bit. So, we might see a different side of Shannon. It could be fun. Webby, if you're out there, let everyone in the chat bar know how to do gallery view. I don't have time to explain it to them. So just type it in there, make sure they're doing that right. In this new kind of under construction, new fresh version of the show, we now play a game called acro-sin. And Jerry, you should pay attention to this. So if you say an acronym during this show, you must drink from your penalty drink, okay? Now, I want to take a moment here. We've had quite a few guests, and if you've been tuning in, you've probably noticed this. Quite a few special guests have been skirting the penalty drink rules quite a bit, and we've been letting them get off the hook. That needs to stop, okay? Jerry, I'm speaking to you. If you say an acronym, and we'll let you know, you'll see it on the screen, you must drink from your penalty drink. We will not upset the Retireholic gods tonight, okay? Everyone repeat after me. That includes you, Chad, Justin, Shannon. Repeat after me. Although, Shannon, you get a pass since you're on drugs. I will drink. Say that for me.
I will drink.
I will drink.
Thank you. When I violate the rule.
When I violate the rule.
Very good. Let's move on.
My hand was on the ERISA outline book.
Shout out to Sal Tripodi. The chat bar champion from last week. I went and looked at the transcript. I knew I was going to send it to all of you, but I didn't. I flaked. So I read it all by myself from start to finish. And even though I was impressed with all the usuals, the Webbies and the Hacklers and the Greenfields and, a ton of them, I chose Aaron Hall based on consistency from start to finish, She had valuable commentary. She had humorous commentary, and she even ripped on a few people from time to time that made me chuckle as I was reading it. So Erin Hall is the champion. Jerry, Shannon, understand that we will have a chat bar champion today in our new formats. So you will vote for finalists. So please do your best to pay attention to the chat bar and have someone in mind towards the end of the show to nominate to the finals. And then it is you, the people who tuned in today, that will vote via a Zoom poll on who will actually be the chat bar champion. New segment we did last week. I had a lot of fun. What did Webby call his room?
Web rating.
The Webby room rating. I called it invading.
Web rating.
Web rating.
The web rating. We will do that, but we will do it. We'll save it for the after shows. Therefore, if you have a question, make sure your camera's fired up and make sure you're ready to join us via video on the after show. Come on. I don't want to be stalled out like last week. Like, get me some new blood, get me some people, get me some questions, and pop it up on the video. Let's do this. Don't let me down. Muscle up and do this with us. And yeah, we'll have the Webby room rating will be in effect. Okay, we got a big, fancy, big shot guest, an industry icon, a legend. Chad, can you introduce our guest to the audience?
Yes, and I prepared for this one.
Nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's bout is 1 hour, or the first panelist that passes out. Commenting out of the box in the bottom right-hand corner, weighing in with an account balance north of all 5 Retireholics, the founder of the 401k company, the brains behind Benefit Street and Next Step. He often fills in as the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world. Tuning in from his hotel in Austin, Jerry Bramlett. That's my announcer voice. Come on.
Chad.
You surprised me there, dude. Nice work.
I worked on that for like 6 to 8 seconds.
I'm very proud of you, Chad. That was
Jerry, welcome. We're excited to have you.
absolutely phenomenal. Jerry, I had maybe unlike any episode before, I had an outpouring of people from the internet that had questions that they wanted me to ask you. So you definitely got a big following. I also had a lot of people tell me what a great guy you are and how there's not a person on the planet that has anything negative to say about you. So kudos to you for a long career where everyone thinks you're just a phenomenal dude. But I'm going to push aside some of their questions because I got one myself that I want to kick off and start with you.
Okay.
How does it feel to be a freaking 401k baller? You start a company, you grow it to 350 employees, some 20 plus billion in assets. You sell it to Charles Schwab. By the way, how is Chuck? Does he come and hang out with you at your Austin ranch and like drink bourbon and leather couches and ride horses with you? I don't know. Then you move on and you help a struggling company, you restructure it, you then buy the assets, you start another company and you sell that sucker to freaking Newport Group. I don't know how much money you make from these things, but then you move on and you're like the lead dude at Ascensus, TPA Future Plan, and you help them grow this thing. Like I'm asking myself personally, my company is growing at a snail's pace. We were founded in 1975. I've never accomplished all the things you have. Is it my surfing? Is it the beer that I'm drinking every day? Is it my beanies, what is holding me back? Can you give me a little self-help advice? And while you're doing so, maybe you can slap on the end of that because people wanted to know and tell us about I'm searching for it, blitz scaling. What the hell is blitz scaling? So give me some personal advice and then maybe lead into what the fuck blitz scaling is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've had some be in the right place at the right time. 1983, great time for 401k. Back then, when we called on firms, we were just like, telling them about what 401k is and putting plans in. There was no daily record keeping. We were one of the first to actually put together a daily record keeping system. I had a technology background, so that helped. So, I mean, it's about, it's like Ralph Waldo Emerson said, every great man, and he would say man back then, we'd say person today. Every great man, he says, not me, meaning history, where you landed, where you. So I landed at a really good place. Everything's synchronized, and I kept selling 401k plans, and I kept selling larger ones. So I went from $5 million average client to 10 million to 20 million. And then I was buying aircraft, and I went through 5 different planes. So I could actually, if I needed to go see, if I was on the phone with somebody and they're in New York and I'm in Texas and I need to go see them and close the deal, then I could be there, that day.
There is Southwest, American Airlines, United. You can do things like that.
Yeah, my first map was Southwest. Or where they went, I went from Austin, and then from there I started buying aircraft. But so it's being at the right place, right time. But I also think it's about focus. So 27 years I ran the 401k company. We never did anything other than 401k. We never did a defined benefit. We never did either traditional or cash balance. We never did COLI or 401k wraps. We didn't do anything. We didn't do health plans. We only did 401k, and we just kept pushing. It's about specialization and focus. In terms of blitz scaling was something that was developed by Reid Hoffman, who was a co-founder of LinkedIn, and he's got a podcast out there on blitz scaling. It's actually been made into a course. That's his book there. And basically what that's about is how do you run a company that's growing at 100, 200% a year? And so at Future Plan, part of Ascensus, over a 2-year period, we grew at about 400%. So we added about 30 firms all told in less than 3 years. And so we were growing very rapidly. And so I started applying a lot of the blitz scaling principles in that book, which I had already been doing at the 401k company. But things like hire miss now, not miss perfect. Introduce products that will embarrass you. In other words, if you put a product out there and it goes smoothly on its introduction, you probably introduced it too late. So you want to get products to the firing line.
The school of get her done.
Get her
MVP,
done. Yeah.
minimal viable product.
Yeah, that's a nerdy comment, Chad.
Oh, that was a.
Is that an acronym?
Oh, yes, it is.
That was an acronym.
Ring them up. Ring them up.
Candid.
And the other things are things like let fires burn.
I like this book.
Build things that don't scale that you're going to throw away. So in other words, you've got to build something, and you got to get it built. It may be manual, it may be part manual, part automated, but what's important is to get it out there and to get something. And maybe you're going to throw it away in the future.
Jerry, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I was actually serious when I asked you. I had a conversation with my brother who's running the behind the scenes stuff here, and I was like, what is it in the DNA about people like Jerry, people we've had Chetney on, these people who kind of set their sights so much bigger on these like big mountaintops. And Brandon said, I think it's not having fear of risk. And so a lot of the things that you just said kind of tie into like you said, like let the fire burn, hire miss now, not miss perfect. Like it's all this kind of like just go, 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 go. And I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of the people that aren't like you that just choose the safer path, just the more consistent, safer path. That's at least how Brandon and I were talking about it. And I feel like you're backing that up a little bit. You humbly say, right place, right time, just kind of go, go, go. But I think that there's something in the way you see things, and there's something in the way that you're built, which is just to reach those levels, which I clearly don't fucking have that skill set. So whatever, Chad, we'll just keep growing at our pace.
Hey, Thomas, I'll back you a little bit though, because when you came up with the idea of Retireholics, I pretty much immediately said, oh, hell no, JD. not in the TPA space, not in third-party administrator space, not in what we're doing. And that was a risk, and look at what it's evolved to. So I think you have a little bit of Jerry in you, and you just need to let it loose.
I like what Mark Leverett said. He goes, I bet JD can surf a lot better than Jerry. Yeah, I'll surf circles around Jerry anytime.
Well, there is something to be said for being an adrenaline junkie. So, I'm into motorcycling. I've kayaked in the Arctic, motorcycled in places like Turkey, and have done a lot of crazy things on the physical sports side. And so there seems to be an element, but the thing about entrepreneurs is not so much that they take risk, is they know how to manage risk. So it's about understanding, what's actually risky and what's not.
I didn't have this question planned for you, but when obviously the growth of future plan that you were talking about, the 400% has a lot to do with acquisitions.
Yeah.
All to do with acquisitions.
Yeah. Let's put Benefit Street. Let's put Benefit Street next step aside for a second, because that was kind of a unique situation. You're the 401k company, and that growth to 20 plus billion, 350 employees. Was acquisition a big part of that for you?
Zero.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Every deal that we had, I was involved pretty much in the sale of it. So I was the salesperson. So it was basically, I was a broker, advisor who had a record keeping system, and it was that's what it really was. So it was really, in that regard. So.
And how is Chuck these days? Does he invite you to the house at Pebble?
No. I mean, Chuck did come down, and we did visit, and we connected, and we had quite an interesting thing. He asked me, he said, why do you keep using all these military examples? He said, you've got women here. I'm sure they'd find that offensive. So one lady, she said, look, I have a gun on each ship. I'm ready to go, speaking metaphorically. Another lady said, I'm trained. I'm packing. And she had a clock in her purse right then. And he goes, oh my Lord. And I said, Chuck, welcome to Texas. And
hey, just so everyone knows, I was kidding when I was saying like, oh yeah, how's Chuck?
Yeah, as was I. Jeez.
Let's move on to another TPA. Oh, that is a everyone be aware, the acronym for third party administrator does count. David K reminded us that in the chat bar there.
I don't think TPA is an acronym. An acronym needs to be a word. It has to NASA is an acronym because you say it as one thing. TPA, you're saying each letter. It's not a.
So we're redefining what it means. It means any little letters that stand for words. TPAs in the micro market. I think if you reach out, I got it. That's two.
That was immediate.
I owe one. There's this common concept of like third-party administrators kind of play and belong in the micro space. Sometimes you hear like south of 10 million, and this kind of mega, 50 million, 100 million and bigger is a bundled environment. What say you, Jerry? Is that accurate? Does that make sense? Will it change in the future?
Well, I think it's somewhat, it's pretty accurate, but there's no reason why it has to be that way. And I think that when you look at the reasons why people work with third-party administrators, right? They work with third-party administrators because they like working with someone local. And what happens is you see that with CPA firms. So there I went. So I got to do one for CPAs.
Bring them up.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you can always continue your look at the graphic. You can always Jerry, you can always continue your thought and save it up and catch up. So you can keep
So certified public accountants, they work with local ones, and then whenever they reach a certain size, they go with a national firm. Same thing with third-party administrators. They work with a local third-party administrator, and then they reach a certain size and they feel like they should go to Fidelity, or they should go to wherever. and to Vanguard, one of the other firms, and that they should bundle everything together. So it's just an assumption that they're making. But I think that, you know, the concept behind what we were doing at Future Plan, what Future Plan continues to do, is to build a national TPA with very robust workflow systems, very robust security, and that kind of thing. And I would envision you should be able to push up market with that.
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me from an accountant perspective, because I feel like there could be lots of different like rules and laws. There's acquisitions, there's mergers.
You've got people in different states. You might think depth of team makes a big deal. But
yeah,
in the TPA space, dang it, that one's going to be hard for me. In the third-party administrator space, I don't think that when you get to a certain size, you get better service or greater depth of team or knowledge when you go bundled. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite.
I don't think Jerry.
I agree.
That thought process.
I agree with Chad.
Shannon,
from everything I've seen in the bundled environment, the service does decrease and it commoditizes what we as third-party administrators are offering. I mean, I look at the education that I make my staff get compared to some of the people I talk to at some of the larger national firms, and it's amazing to me.
Which makes you wonder, makes you wonder, Shannon, is how does a large Fortune 500 bundled company provide better consulting and better advice on a very detailed, very niche subject? And again, this isn't Jerry's point, by the way. I've heard him speak to the contrary. And this is what Future Plan is kind of building, this merging of these two things. But I agree. I feel like a third-party administrator is far better suited to deal with complex issues, especially if you've built out your network of ERISA attorneys and all this type of stuff. And I say this from experience, and I don't know if Shannon would back me up, but I would argue that some of the relationships that I have with clients that I feel most secure about these days are my mega plans.
Yeah.
They're the ones that I know see the value in what we do. I know they understand who we are. I'm more worried about the little ones that don't seem to quite get it. So to me, I feel like, and I'm actually appreciate Future Plan for pushing this narrative. I feel like TPAs should be starting to make a push into the larger market because we have more value there. Now, okay, gotcha. We'll put this for later. We'll put a pin in this. Cybersecurity, processes, software, efficiencies, APIs, contingency plans, disaster plans. I think those are all relevant concepts. I don't think they're unique to a national TPA. I think that a lot of medium-sized TPA firms have a lot of that shit in place. And I've been seeing, just as a side thing, I've been seeing a lot more mistakes happening from large firms when it comes to cybersecurity versus my staff. So that might be a fun conversation to have a little later. Chad, how do you feel that on the war front, that people just, when it comes to a $20 million plan, a local TPA is not even considered? Yes, I'll drink twice.
Yeah, I do.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead, Jess.
I was talking to JD. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do feel like that's the truth. And I think that truth is beaten on them by the wholesaling community. Mm-hmm. It's not often the advisor that feels that is the way, because they see the value that we bring, but the wholesalers they're talking to are saying there's no need for a third-party administrator on this plan. We can do this one in-house.
Well, the thought behind that too, I mean, not even the thought, but I think the truth of what people are saying, it's efficiency driven and cost driven, once you get up in that level. And I think we're fighting an uphill battle here, swimming upstream, trying to convince people, and that's just not the narrative out there right now. That needs to be changed.
Now,
most of the large record keepers work with TPAs. So anything that you can offer with, let's say, an Empower, that Empower can do bundled, they can do with a TPA, and the client's going to get better service from the TPA, quite honestly, than calling the 800 number and trying to get something done.
Shannon, structurally, let me ask you though, on $100 million, is it the same Empower person that you're working with? Because it's not for us. On $100 million plan, it's a different Hancock person, it's a different Empower person, it's a different T-Row person. So they don't care about TPA business there. Sorry.
I don't think a client wants to just have one. I think this is what I see the most is they want to have one company to deal with.
Yeah,
You know?
well, that's ridiculous. That's so.
Of
That's
course,
the same.
no.
Yeah, that's that. So you talk to one person who then can't answer your question, who has to run over to the other building to ask the people in that department to answer the question. To come, that's just that's an asinine concept. I get it. I get that you feel like you have one contact, but that to me is not value. And I also don't think cost is something that a $50 million, $100 million plan is really in the decision-making process. Maybe your wholesalers feel that way, but they'd be more than happy to chalk up an extra 10 grand for a professional to be looking over stuff. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket for them.
But to me, JD, that issue exists with the third-party administrator community. That means we're not able to show enough value to make those people say, oh, it's 100 million. You still need the intellect and the accountability of that team. So that falls on us as a community.
I totally
agree. I think it's changing the story that the advisors are hearing, whether it's from, our business is advisor driven, and they're hearing one story from wholesalers, and they're getting convinced that those large firms need to go to a large national firm and
Jerry,
just need to change it.
Jerry, I'm sure you spend a lot of time thinking about these things. What does the TPA marketplace look like right now? How many TPAs do we have across, not to put you on the spot, but how many TPAs do we have across the country? What does their market share look like? You were out there trying to buy them up, so I'm sure you have some pretty good radar on all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no really solid numbers because some third-party administrators may be a part of a law firm, they may be a part of an accounting firm, they may be a part of an advisory practice. So if you look at books of business, so wherever that may be, in a CPA, certified public accounting firm, a third-party record keeper, an attorney, a group of attorneys, an advisor firm, there's probably 2,000, 2,500 books of business out there.
2,000 to 2,500 kind of third-party administrator kind of types. And what do you think they're? I mean, I've heard these days that they have north of 50% market share. I guess that depends on whether you're looking at number of plans or size of assets.
Under 10 million is like 55, 56%.
Under 10
wow.
million, 55, 56%. Okay.
That's surprising to me.
It's always been over 50% as far as
I thought it would be higher though, Jerry.
Yes,
like in that micro space, I thought the share.
But look at Paychecks, look at ADP.
Good point.
Good point.
Great point.
Look at Guide Point.
Great point.
Diatech will do things for $500.
No, just paychecks and
So will Justin, Shannon.
What? Sorry, I'm gonna read that part. What I missed.
Yeah.
Just paychecks and automatic data processing alone is a big chunk of that. So okay, fair enough. Future Plan has kind of put a cool down on the acquisitions. Was that just COVID related? Am I tripping that that's not really true?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of things. I would say that it definitely is COVID related. I mean, COVID slowed everything down, right? I mean, you can't get out and see people and spend time with them, and everything's virtual. So it's more challenging. And I think that they were ready to take a breather and also be in a consolidation mode. They acquired a lot of businesses over the prior 2 years. And so now it's time to move into more of a consolidation versus, acquiring. We were acquiring a new firm once a month while we were building the firm at the same time. So, but I could see them cranking back up. I can't project what they'll do, what other things they might acquire. So they've got a record keeping business. They could acquire record keeping. They have a college savings business. They could acquire some businesses there.
They got to keep up. They got to keep up with Empower, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's hard to know, but I wouldn't say that it's all pandemic related. I'd say some of it's consolidation related, but pandemic definitely had a big impact. I mean, you can see that's when it stopped, right?
You say consolidation. The way I interpret that is that you've got all these firms, and now you're really looking to make it a cohesive unit. That's
right.
I mean, obviously you had blueprints for that and strategies, but now you're just really So, what did I say?
It wasn't you. Alfonso called out Jerry with the
okay, good. Alfonso.
I'm not even going to say it, but the coronavirus acronym.
Okay. You owe us one. You owe us one. Well, Jerry catches up on one penalty drink. Brandon, if you're okay with it, let's spin that legit wheel of ice. And I'm guessing you have removed Mark. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Mark, right?
You can just exclude them from being eligible. So he's on there, but he's not eligible, which means the chances go up. Are you serious? It's rigged now.
The fact that you keep saying very legit is very suspect.
I don't believe him anymore.
Okay, Jerry, the three of us are going to pound a Smirnoff Ice. Why don't you start talking to
Brandon's in.
Why don't you start talking to Shannon about ask him about TPA valuations. How do they come? Are TPA valuations like 110x revenue, or what are they these days? What you were paying for those shops? Oh God. Okay.
Yeah, how are you figuring out what you're offering to pay us, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really, there's so many different variables that go into, how you price a book of business. For instance, what's the book look like itself? Is it a good solid book, or is it, spread out across, 15 different areas, or is it focused heavily in 401k, so forth and so on? What's the attrition look like, on the book? What's the average size plan revenue? What's the margin of the company? That's the big determinant. What does the owner intend to do? Do they plan to stay around or be gone 2 weeks after the deal closes?
Or does the owner look like a homeless person? That could impact it.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different variables, but generally speaking, it's a multiple of earnings, not a multiple of revenue. I mean, people will buy record keepers for multiple revenues, but typically with the TPA, they're going to be pretty disciplined with focusing.
We're talking EBITDA, right? We're talking EBITDA. Again.
Yeah. So if you look into design your firm to be prepared to be sold at some point, you want to focus on EBITDA and what making that as attractive as possible.
Sure.
And then you're generally looking at anywhere between, it could be as low as 6 times EBITDA, as high as 10 times EBITDA, and everything in between.
Chad, so Justin, I got some bad news for you guys.
Damn it.
You just got called out. You just got called out for another drink.
I feel like the word Tony is Jerry is using is.
I will never sell to the Death Star.
I feel like that term, and I'm not going to say it because I actually don't know what it breaks down to be, but is an acronym in itself. But Jerry, I'm very curious. Do you see a lot of variance when you're at Future Plans? Do you see a lot of variance in the revenue or the earnings from different TPAs in terms of the percentage and size? Obviously, bigger ones are going to have greater earnings, but I feel like most TPA shops run pretty similar.
No,
not necessarily. You could have larger firms that run very thin margins. You can have smaller firms that have big margins. So it's all over the map. There isn't really a correlation between size of the TPA firm and the margins.
What about
but yeah, the margins are all over the map because, I mean, if you don't intend to sell, then what's the purpose of a margin? Especially if you're a C corp. You don't want to retain earnings. You want to distribute earnings. And so, but if you want to sell someday, people buy businesses that are making a profit, right?
Yeah,
because
let me interrupt the icon like I continue to do. I also think that, Chad, if you look at third-party administrators across the country, a lot of them are my father's peers.
Yeah.
And there's some old school peeps running those shops, man.
Yeah.
And so you're going to find a huge variance in terms of the ones that have really built efficiencies. You also, no offense to the baby boomers, you also have a shit ton of like micromanagers. There's a lot of people that hover over their staff to do things. And so they haven't really built a business that's creating massive profits. They're building a business that's supporting their life. Not all of them, but I think there's a lot of that. And then you've got studs like me that build efficient shit that make a ton of money. Go ahead, Chad.
Those are the ones I want though, JD. Like if I were sitting in Jerry's seat at Future Plans, I'm looking at acquisition and I'm saying we can cut out the cost of the principal, because all of those small third-party administrator shops are 3 owners. They're all family members. If you cut them out, because they're not part of the operations, if you cut them out and you bring them in-house, I think the profits go up dramatically. The margins do.
Well, it just depends. I mean, the situation. I mean, yeah, generally speaking, if you've got a couple of owners that are leaving, or one owner that's leaving, that will have a big impact on the overall financials. But the question is, how much is that owner? Because when you're buying a third-party administrator, what you're buying is a network of relationships. You're not necessarily just buying a book. You're buying, a network of relationships. When we acquired QBI, which by the way, I acquired QBI at Benefit Street, and then again,
ring them up for that. That's it.
And
they're called qualified benefit something.
Yeah, qualified benefit Inc. And so, Greg Taylor's been building that business for 43 years. And he's made all these connections with all these wholesalers and all the advisors and other center of influence. And so the owner can be very valuable in terms of helping maintain and retain that network, that route that's been developed over the years. So it's not necessarily so clean that you can just buy a firm, get rid of the owner, and then recognize that into your profits. You also got to look at what is the impact.
How long do you simply have to stick around for?
Well, it just depends. I mean, some of them, the mid-career people, like you take, for instance, Casey Price, who's now head of sales at Future Plan. Casey, she built a nice firm. She sold it to Future Plan. And then she became ran institutional sales, and then she became national sales manager. Matter of fact, all the sales folks at all the sales, divisional sales, I was going to say DVPs, but divisional vice presidents in sales are all former owners. A lot of people in management are former owners. So a lot of them get integrated into the bigger group.
If they want to keep going, Greg's saying there was an acronym used. You're correct. I had 2 questions. I think you kind of answered one. And let me be clear. I have zero interest in selling my company. I hope my children run it someday. And I love working with these guys. But just to ask the questions, do you, like here I have a sales team, right? Of 3 guys, and they're the ones that have the relationships with the people on the ground. Does my sales team come along with the gig? And then my second part of the question is, what about the admin staff? Is the admin staff is all the admin and compliance work going completely in-house to Future Plan, Ascensus, and the people that worked for those TPA firms are moving on to other areas? How is that working?
No. First of all, when we acquire a firm, like for instance, Gold Leaf, and they had, Aaron, who became a DVP, divisional vice president, and Aaron, like six different salespeople from Gold Leaf became part of his team. So they just became integrated and shifted over to the national sales team. The admins, the administrators and the consultants and those folks, they also get integrated and become part of the operations. So it's not a slash and burn type of strategy. That would not work. It's a strategy of, okay, we've got this group of people and now they're going to be part of the large organization. What are the various roles that they could be in this new organization? And so that's what we did. We focused on finding places for all these folks that wanted to stay, but you have a good number of people who want to leave. They're ready to retire, they're ready to move on. And so you build that in, and you work with that. So it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense at all if if it's painted that pretty of, you know, rainbows and unicorns, because not everyone can find a spot at the acquiring company. That would defeat the entire strategy of it in the first place. But I do understand that there are places for people. I get it. There are places for people, and for sure it happens. It's real life. But there are also a lot of other people that get kicked to the side of the curb. Yes, Shannon, go.
You know, everybody's asking why I'm not talking, and I'm like, well, you know, this happens when Mandy's on here with me too, so I'm used to it. I have a question about billing, Jerry, and how because there's so many different philosophies on how third-party administration firms bill. You know, some of us bill in advance, some of us bill in arrears, some of us bill all at one time. So when you walk into a firm that, let's say, bills in advance, you know, so quarterly in advance, so by the time you get to the end of 2020, the client's already paid you for everything, even though the work's going to be done later, versus I may bill in arrears when I get the work done and they may never pay me and I've lost all that time. How does that come into your calculations and your figures and how you look at firms you want to build?
Well, yeah, well, every firm, regardless of what the firm's current billing strategy is, it's going to be consolidated into a single billing strategy, right? So everyone, and using feature plan example, or I could use Benefit Street as an example, you know, they basically became, you know, they standardized the billing. They typically bill in advance, you know, versus in arrears. But that all gets accounted for. In other words, there's a process to go through that and to work that out to get it under one. And that, you know, a lot of this stuff it's not done in 6 months. It's not done in 12 months. A lot of times it's 2 or 3 years of working with a firm to get everything, get the billings squared away, get them on the new workflow platform, to get the sales folks integrated, to get the admin people integrated into operations and the consultants into operations.
I would argue, Shannon, that any third-party administrator deals with that same issue when they take over a plan. So it's doable, and they figure out a way to do it. Chad, you're right. There's a lot of TPA talk. It was kind of by design. I mean, we've got the dude that headed up Future Plan. All right. So let's shift it a little bit. And I don't know a lot about this stuff. I'm not a huge and I will drink for that, government following deal, but some people from the internet had questions around the new presidency, Biden. Let's see, Alan Moore wanted to know if what you thought, Jerry, about Biden's impact on the new Department of Labor fiduciary rule. You know, they're putting kind of this freeze on everything. Jonathan Wozniak wanted to discuss any potential compliance issues with the new dude taking over for the SEC. I'm probably the first person to call him a dude. Gary Gensler. I think the concept there is this guy's a pretty hard knocks, you know, for a participant advocate, you know, as he should be. Any thoughts you can share with the audience on the new administration?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a Democratic administration, and so there's going to be more expectation for firms to assume fiduciary liability and not just to be getting off scot-free. So what you're going to see is that, you know, it's going to be harder for the advisor. This shouldn't affect third-party administrators. You know, if anything, you know, what you'll see is some incentives to enhance 401k, 401k setup and contributions and that kind of thing. So I think you're going to see the industry is going to continue to grow and expand, but it's going to be, you know, advisors are not going to be able to. They're going to have to disclose their commissions. They're going to have to look at for conflicts of interest. There's going to be tough for the advisor on the advisor world, not on the third-party administrator world. You shouldn't see any significant changes that impact third-party administrators.
Maybe it'll help.
That's what I think, yeah. Shannon.
I think it'll help third-party administrators because you're going to have advisors who need somebody that's more knowledgeable to help them fulfill their fiduciary responsibilities.
When are they stepping over into the fiduciary role? What are they doing to create that? And if they do assume the fiduciary role, what do they need to do? You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think, you know,
Tony,
third-party administrators should always be focused on building relationships with advisors and creating education and supporting them and mentoring them, because the reason why third-party administrators do so well, one of the reasons is because there's so many, everybody thinks the advisors, everything's going to go the Bill Chetney specialist route, right? The RPAGs of the world, and that kind of thing. The reality is the blind squirrel, what did I say?
Our retirement plan advisory group.
Oh.
Drink up, Mr. Bramlett.
The reality is that, I'm an advisor. I get a phone call from somebody who wants to know whether or not I do 401k plans. And I'm going to say, sure. And then I'm going to get back to the office and say, okay, what do I do now? And the branch manager says, well, go talk to so-and-so from John Hancock. They come in here. Then the John Hancock person grabs the third-party administrator, and there's and you've heard me say it before, JD, that's the dream team. You've got the record keeper there, you got the TPA, you got the third-party administrator there, and you got the advisor there, and each has got a separate function. And to JD's point earlier, you're not going to deal with one person just because you go with a bundle approach. You're going to deal with still multiple people. It's actually easier to deal with a local person who's going to take your phone call, not send you through a telephone directory or whatever, and be able to walk you through everything. And so I would definitely, if I was a third party administrator, I'd be pushing up market.
Up market.
We've had talks about that. We've got plans for that. We're going to try to brand and market in that area. I think what I like to hear is with this Democratic presidency, it's possible that we'll see a push towards like mandates and things for retirement plans. And some of you have heard me say this before on the show. Here in California with the state-run plan, it's a massive opportunity for advisors out here as well as third-party administrators, because tens of thousands of new plans are going to be put in place, assuming you're in the market for startups.
And that was my point, JD. I listened to Kelsey Mayo today in a session, and she was fantastic. And she talked about some of the proposals for Secure Act 2.0 and some potential tax credits, for even first year and beyond company contributions, which was super interesting to me. But if you think back to the last time the Democratic Party kind of ran things, we had Senate Bill 1234, which was all about coverage and state mandated plans. If we see that like we are in California, then I think the third party administrative community needs to grab onto that like we are doing in California and show the difference between the state ran plans and what a 401k can mean for you. And that was my only rebuttal to the look up market. Because I agree, we are looking up market. Everybody should. But I think with a Democrat in office and coverage being the primary component that they talked about in Inauguration Day, that we're going to see state ran plans come full circle, federally ran plans, perhaps I should say, and we're going to see a shit ton of startups again, just like we are in California right now.
To Jerry's points of third-party administrators focusing on being of value to advisors and meshing it with this going up market, Jerry, at Future Plan, Ascensus, was there ever discussions in those fancy boardrooms around the fact that, because you all work with numerous record keepers, and you know how important data is these days, right? Like the industry is obsessed with data and the value of it. Isn't a third-party administrator, check swing, kind of strategically positioned to have access to that data no matter the record keeper? And was there ever any strategies talked about that at Future Plan where you could somehow leverage that going into the future, or no?
No, I would say, no, not really. Not that I can remember. I mean, every rec keeper is focused on data mining and that kind of thing. But I think that with a third-party administrator, what you're looking at is they're working in conjunction with the rec keeper. The data they have, it's more the rec keeper using that data for targeting specific things.
But if I wanted to support an advisor, say a large advisor that plays in the mega market or a bigger market, one of my values to that advisor might be, hey, I have access to that data no matter the record keeper. And instead of the record keeper providing those services and leveraging that data, that large advisor shop could.
Well, it depends on what you want to do with the data, because primarily what they want to do with the data as a record keeper is to cross-sell, right?
That's exactly what a large national advisor shop would want to do.
Yeah, and so they're I can see that was really not a big part of our strategy. Not to say that it wouldn't be, but that's not a big focus, because you could basically bundle up and the data for the advisor and help them strategize on how to. But the way that it typically works is the advisor knows that there's and you all know this. I mean, they're not interested in the person out there with a $5,000 account balance or a $10,000 account balance or a $25,000 account balance. They're interested in the 3 or 4 people that have large account balances that are the principals of the firm, or if there's an executive team, executives. But even those executives and those principals typically have their own advisors. They're not like sitting out there with $1 million sitting in an account somewhere, but nobody to help them, to manage it. So, I think the cross-selling opportunities is really kind of overrated in terms of what opportunities actually exist.
That's cool.
And, most of the firms, it just, you talk to advisors and, oh, I want to enroll everybody in the plan. Really? Okay. Well, you need to show up and it'll take a week. What? A week? Yeah. And you got to talk to this guy over here and this lady over here and this person here. And they got little tiny account balances and, they're like, what? I mean, even the 401k plan itself, an advisor may say, okay, the $2 million 401k plan, how much should I have to work for it versus a $2 million high net worth individual?
Right.
And how much can I charge a 401k plan versus how much can I charge a high net worth individual? So I may be able to charge a high net worth individual 75 basis points, but can only charge 35 basis points to the same assets, and it's more work. So it's really about making it very easy for them to acquire these plans and to manage them and not have to take a lot of their time, because a lot of them are better served in their minds by focusing on high net worth individuals. 401k plans are complicated and they carry risk.
I have a thought and a question for you, Jerry. First thought is, I would disagree on advisors moving forward only be focused on high net worth or high account balances when it comes to a distribution phase. I think with automation, they're going to be excited for a $5,000 rollover because they're going to be able to automate that process so simply. And that's the person that doesn't have an outside advisor.
But that's not data. That's not data mining. But that's access. Is basically, that's not data mining. But that is, if you're going to go after a $5,000 account balance as a rollover, you better do it in a managed account, and you better never talk to that person, or you'll get hurt.
That's the point. And my point is the access. The 401k is the access to that participant. It's not the data that they want. That advisor doesn't want the data. They want the access to that participant.
Yeah.
So that they can cross-sell and automate this.
Jerry, I know companies like Empower make a shit ton of money off of these little rollovers. They have entire wings of their business that are built on this. And I think everything you said was totally accurate. And there's a bit of kind of old school in a cool way in that, a realism of like the industry and the way you've seen it. And I agree with you. And that's going to be true going forward in a lot of spaces. However, if you move past kind of the single advisor that's in, any town USA, and you start to pay attention to these aggregators and these large national, they're almost like future plan of advisors. They're aggregating all these smaller advisor shops. And you know the firms out there, and they have eyes on this participant data, and they have eyes to monetize it before the record keepers. And I apologize to all the attendees that have heard me talk about this damn subject for weeks and weeks and weeks. But Jerry, I just think the world's changing a little bit in that space. And I think that the world that you explained will still exist for sure, especially for years to come. But there is this battle over the data. And I think the days will be long gone where it's just the record keeper that's using that information. You're going to find other entities using it. So anyways.
No, I agree. And I think that what's going to happen is that, and they're going to see it with the PEPs and what have you. And there I go. So PEPs. The thing is,
Retireholic gods are so angry with Jerry right now. I figure he's what, 5 back? Is that true? Is that audience? Let me know. Audience, how many drinks do you think Jerry's behind? Just throw a number in the chat bar. Go ahead, Jerry.
But no, so what the messaging to the advisor should be from the third party administrator is that as your plan becomes more and more bundled, you lose more and more control, and it becomes an investment client to that firm, right?
Yes.
And so, but if you stay with me and work with me, we'll keep the client, we'll keep them happy, but we'll make sure these clients are your clients and that you can get the rollovers and you can get so I'm not questioning that desire. I'm just questioning. I've just seen through decades and decades, advisors talk about all that they want to do with these plans and all they want to do with these participants, and we have all the data. And I was a record keeper, right? But the reality is that that when they start looking at the numbers, they say, "Oh, $5,000 plan. I didn't want to waste my time talking about it." A person, because it's just not that much money.
They're going to have to build. They'll have to build. They'll have to use tech. They'll have to build efficiencies. Sure. They'll find third-party technology that they can snap on. Chad, you private messaged me. I lost it. I don't know what you're asking me.
I said I want to ask Jerry the next question because your comment about your time at Future Plans not wanting to cross-sell, not being a big part of the conversation was honestly mind-blowing to me because I look at what Future Plan charges as a whole, base per participant, no asset play, no managed account play, no proprietary requirement play. And I went, I know the third party administrative space. I know what it takes to service these plans. How are they going to be profitable at that margin?
Let's save it for the after show because I'm with you, Chad. I was also shocked, and it was cool how Future Plan told me straight to my face several times, and it's true, is that I thought for sure you guys were going to try to wrap that stuff up into Ascensus from a record keeping standpoint.
Yeah.
And clearly that was never the goal, which is interesting to me. Okay, let's vote chat bar.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Let's vote chat bar champion, and we'll wrap this up, and then we'll do a little after show, and hopefully some of you are ready to get on video. No, Justin's got no video. I'm so disappointed in all of you. Right, Justin, right now. Craig Eddy, get your damn video set up and ask a question of our iconic guest, for Christ's sakes. Chat bar champion, Chad, your vote is to whom?
I wrote 2 names down, and honestly, I can't read my writing very well, but the first one was Greenfield, and I'm going to stick with that. It was a specific comment that caused me to write it down.
Okay, Brandon, sorry to throw this on you. I'm hoping you can slap together a poll, right? And Greg G is in this poll. Okay, Shannon, your vote for chat bar champion to go to the finals.
I'm going with Greg too.
Okay, so Brandon just won Greg G. Justin.
Coming back to me. I'm split between Greg and Tony right now.
Okay, so Tony Davis makes the final. We'll give Tony to it. Brandon, Greg G, Tony Davis. Jerry, pick someone from that chat bar, man. Who's going to make the final?
I mean, I know what a chat bar is.
Brandon, I'm going to go.
I know. I see the chats, but I don't see how I pick somebody out of there.
Oh, you just got a name. Any name you recognize that you thought did an intelligent comment, you thought were funny, you just like the way their name looks. I don't give a shit. Brandon,
Jerry Fitz wants somebody to vote for her.
Justin almost won my chat bar challenge with one of his
Brandon,
comments.
I'm going to choose David. I'm going to choose David. I'm going to choose David K. Brandon to add to that list of 3. So we've got 3 so far, and Jerry's got 5 seconds to pick Sherry Fitz or he's out. 5, 4.
Well, still, so I mean, I see Chad Johnson on here, but
all right, Jerry picks Chad Johansson. Brandon, can you throw up a poll? Can you throw up a poll? And then
Chad Johnson.
And then I'll ask a question from the audience while Brandon tries to throw up this poll. He's what a stud. Okay, everyone, vote for your chat bar champion.
Oh, why can't I vote? Damn it.
Why can't we vote?
We don't count.
Brandon, it'd be really unfortunate if what is wins and like nobody wins, but I guess that's the way the
Sherry
cookie crumbles.
just chime in? Because Sherry, I was dropping your praise earlier about your session today. I did learn, even though I qualified myself as a rock star of Zoom, I learned a lot. I really did.
Mark Lorette, if there's a Kai Lenny video out there, I've already seen it, buddy. I'm on YouTube watching that shit every day. The winner, chat bar champ, Greg G wins from the damn audience. All right. Greg G,
Greg, that's like a three-peat, right? He's had three, I think 3 now.
He's a stud in the chat bar. Okay. We're
doing voting for the actual nominees here. Because Greg could have his iPad up, his computer, his phone, and just be
Oh, right. Well, then you win. Yeah. Every week we've been playing, since the beginning, we've been playing a song at the end of the show, a song and a video, just kind of wrap it up. What we're gonna mix it up, and each week one of the Retireholics will get to choose the song that they want to play for the week. This week was going to be Mark's choice, and since Shannon is filling in on Mark's spot on the couch, the virtual couch, Shannon picked the final song. So chat bar, let Shannon know what you think about her choice for the closeout song, and then we will see you all in the after show. But make sure some of you have your videos on and join us for some chat. Play that song.
Oh,
gee.
You gotta love Pink.
Jerry, you can dance if you're comfortable. Figured Brandon could only handle that for so long.
I said 45 seconds. I do love me some Pink, so it's a good choice, Shannon.
She texted me. I said, hey, can you pick a song? You know, she was drugged up from her carpal tunnel, and she's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, pick someone you like, you know, someone you're into. And she wrote like Pink and this song, and I texted her ha 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 like 3 lines. I was cracking up. I'm like, we're playing Pink. Pink's going on the damn show to close it out. So that's
I recall a similar text exchange with you last night. Did you not like my choice? What happened there?
No, Brandon, as usual, as the producer, overruled me. He said, hey, we have Shannon. Shannon should pick the song. No one wants to hear what Justin wants to listen to. You're next week. You're next week, buddy. So if you're sticking with your song, you're all prepped for next week. I don't know if I totally agree with your song choice, but the reason I say that to you right now is because I know that'll keep you up at night for the next 6 days. I was going to ask you, Jerry. Oh, guys, Chad had I promised you we'd finish your question to him. I kind of jumped all over you then talking about how they weren't going to push it to record keeping. You're surprised, Chad, that they weren't looking at data. That was shocking to you.
I was surprised that they weren't trying to monetize in a different way. And my thought was through cross-selling. because I didn't see you guys pushing out a proprietary product. I didn't see any investments. I didn't see managed accounts. So yeah, I was surprised to think that the margins you're creating on the admin business was enough to sustain those acquisitions.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of benefits from scale, right? So it's the volume, and so you can, if you have a larger shop, then you can functionalize areas, and you can make them very efficient. You can standardize your training. You can do so many different things, and so generally speaking, the bigger you are, the more scale, the more you can take advantage of scale.
Except for when you're talking about ERISA law and compliance. No, I think that's true for sure. You can't argue with that. I think my own company has been the benefactor of scale. I don't know if that it continues on a steep curve. I think that really starts to flatten out a little bit. But what do I know? I don't create companies and sell them for 115 million. So who the fuck knows? But
well, I mean, that is true. That it's not exactly linear in terms of scale. The 401k company, we showed that, as few as 300,000 participants, we could be making more money than people with 2 million in participants. So you have to be, you can be highly efficient and be smaller, and you can be very inefficient and be larger.
Sure.
But the way Future Plan is focused is really on creating a centralized workflow, creating a centralized, admin approach, centralized policy, centralized billing, centralize these things. So if there are certain advantages you can achieve by scale, and then you can also have, larger relationships with the John Hancocks of the world, the Empowers of the world. So you can have people focused exclusively on them.
Are you suggesting, Jerry, that because of those larger relationships that the Hancocks, the Voyas, the Empowers are somehow sharing more revenue with Future Plan than other TPAs?
No. They don't share a nickel more revenue with Future Plan than they would with any other TPA. They can't afford to do that. They don't want TPAs out there saying, you're giving a better deal at Future Plan than you're giving to us. So the revenue sharing is going to be whatever the revenue sharing is. And it's going to be based upon the formula, and there's not going to be some special formula for Future Plan. But it's really basically achieving the efficiencies by standardizing and functionalizing. And you can do that and you can have a profitable business. You don't have to sell products directly to them.
I'll spin this to my own benefit though, Chad. I don't want to lose this thought. I think that that's true. I think what can equally be true is that the bigger you get, the more inefficient you get at times. It's harder for you to move. And so you create these standardized approaches that in a business that's very complicated. This business is constantly bobbing and weaving. The compliance work, the questions of the clients. If you try to fit, I see this with bundle providers, so this is why I'm commenting on this. I've seen this for the last 20 years with bundle providers. If you try, and I've experienced this being a CEO of my own company and trying to set up systems, right? Is sometimes those systems are too rigid, that they don't work as well as something that's more flexible and less rigid. And I think you have to strike a balance there. And maybe if your goal is just to make a ton of cash, then okay, you get away with it, right? You let it burn. It's fine. Like you've created systems. It works for the most part. Retention's not too bad. You make a ton of cash, but the reality is the service and the solution and the quality of the care that you're getting can be, and I'm not saying it is, and I'm not accusing Future Plan of this, but it can be worse. And I think an intelligent person understands that that's a possibility. And I'm sure in Jerry's position, you're looking out for that and you're watching out for that. And that sometimes you're just accepting it as it is. Ooh, Russell Hooker's got a paragraph. Go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say for Russ, who's tuning in for the first time, that's too long for us who are intoxicated to pay attention to.
Kick Russell out of the chat bar, Brandon. Kick him out. Kick him out. He's writing novels.
Jerry, my thought, and Shannon, this is in part for you too. When we look at our business, I think, and JD, you comment on this, the vast majority of our time is spent on data collection. and accuracy of data collection. And when I look at what you built with Ascensus and you're talking about scaling, I say the scaling doesn't help much when you're going after the average plan that has 30 people. And you're still doing that data collection and validating whether it's Schedule C or K1 and trying to get accurate data. We can't scale that as a TPA. That's just hard shit to get and to get accurately. And so that's where I go back to the how are you monetizing it? That one's tough.
You can try to. You know how he's going to answer that, John. Go ahead, Jerry. Give him the answer.
Well, I mean, I would not reflect so much on future plan because I'm no longer there, and they're doing whatever they're doing. And but I know what the intent is, as far as David Musto, the CEO, and that kind of thing. But I can tell you from my own personal experience of the 401k company, we had 350